Hey guys, so in this video we're going to look at Pythagoras in real life, because often in maths we need to apply what we know in a real world context. And so here I've got a few different pictures of things that I've seen before where you could use Pythagoras. Okay, so remember, Pythagoras only works for right angle triangles, so that's what we're looking for. So if we look at this first scenario, I've got a ladder leaning against a wall, and you can see we've got a right angle triangle here. So we've got the length of the ladder, we've got the height of the wall, and we've got the distance from the base of the ladder to the base of the wall. That's a right angle. So that's a right angle triangle. Here's another one. I've got a building and some point over here. I've got how high the building is. I've got how far away I am from it. And I've got this diagonal length here, the hypotenuse, as well. Here I've got a cat stuck in a tree, and here's a camera, and I'm trying to take a picture of it. And I could know how far away I am from the tree, I could know how high the tree is, and I could work out the distance I am from the cat, so I can make sure it's in focus. Another one that I've seen before is Pythagoras. Well, you have it in 3D. Here I've got a 3D picture, but this is a TV. It's inside a box. It's a TV in a box. And you might know that TVs, when you measure them, so if you say I've got a 50-inch TV, then that means the diagonal length of the TV is 50 inches. So here I've actually got a right angle triangle. I've got the height of the TV. I've got the width of the TV. And I've got that diagonal length there. So this makes a triangle here, a right angle triangle. Okay, this one's just in 3D. So we can work out missing lengths using Pythagoras. So why don't you pause the video, see if you can work out what they are for each one of these, and then I'll show you the answer. Okay, so let's have a look at the first one. So here I've got some length of the ladder. Let's call it x. And we know from our Pythagoras that the hypotenuse squared is equal to the sum of the squares of the two shorter sides. And so if I want to know what that distance is there, how high my ladder is, I can do the square root of all this. And that gives me an answer of 2.5 meters. You might have to do that on your calculator. For this cat over here, so this is the triangle that I've got. Okay, so I want to know how far away the camera is from the cat. And again, let's call it x. And that's the hypotenuse again, isn't it? So the hypotenuse squared is equal to the sum of the squares of the two of the sides. So if I want to know what x is, I have to do the square root of all that. And that gives me an answer of, let's do it on a calculator, 5 squared plus 12 squared. That gives, square root it, that gives me 13 meters. Okay, for my how high is the church? Okay, for some reason I know this, I don't know how I know this, but I do. And we can make a triangle here. So this time, what I want is one of the shorter sides. So let's call it x again. But this time, because this is the hypotenuse, I'm going to write out my Pythagoras' theorem. The hypotenuse squared is equal to the sum of the squares of the other two sides. Okay, so you think about your fact families. X squared must be 100 squared. Take away 60 squared. And we're going to square root all of that. So 100 squared. Take away 60 squared. And that gives me an answer of 80 meters. And then the last one here, I've got how wide's my TV. So here, this is kind of in 3D. This I've done it, it's like a 3-dimensional picture. So this is my right angle down here. I know that it's 20 high. Let's make that 20. That's 20 high, and I know that the diagonal length there is 50. This is in inches. And let's say I want to know how wide it is. Let's call it x. And we'll write down a Pythagoras' theorem. So we'll write down 50 squared, because that's my hypotenuse, is equal to x squared plus 20 squared think about your fact families. So x squared equals 50 squared, take away 20 squared. And then we're going to square root that. So on my calculator, that's going to be the square root of 50 squared minus 20 squared. Let me type that in and see what we get. 50 squared, oops. Take away 20 squared. That gives me an answer of 45.83 inches. So here I've rounded that to 2 decimal places. Okay, and so that's a quick look at how we might recognise Pythagoras and when to use Pythagoras in a real life situation.